Hello everyone, we're back with attacking pattern number 10, the exchange Nabber. So this is a very common attacking pattern as well. Bishop comes to h6, try to threaten checkmate, and after it's covered with g6, bishop takes h6, bishop takes f8, and you win the exchange. So that's a very common attacking pattern, and you see it like even I think that club players around 1600 to 1800 they overuse this pattern. It's not always so good, but yeah, of course you need to be aware of it. So one thing to remember is that after bishop h6 usually there's knight e8 covering g7, so that's something to be aware of, and this is actually a very common response to bishop h6. So you should, when you start calculating this pattern, begin from bishop h6, knight e8, and see what happens in the position. So how the pattern plays out, we've already discussed this. Bishop h6, and I realize I need to make this a bit smaller. So this should be good. Yeah. So how does the pattern play out? Bishop h6, g6, bishop takes f8, and king takes f8, and you lose the exchange. So for our first sample game, we have c4 e5, one of these English sh with a very nice, yeah, this is a nice line, I like it. I've always been fond of these because, okay, now I'm opening a tangent, but like they remind me of that King's Gambit line where you take on e5 and then play d4. And I'm not going to show this line because, okay, this is, I need to focus on what the purpose of this video. Okay, so here the exchange isn't captured for a specific reason, and that's that it would ruin the attack. So white continues pushing the h-pawn, and they just want to open up here, play bishop d3, and like crush black. But now finally it's captured, of course, because black was getting close to be able to defend all of these ideas, especially now that the queen is covering the light squares. So it doesn't make sense to continue playing for this bishop d3 stuff. And here it becomes a technical task. White is just up in exchange and converts splendidly. So sample game number 2, we have another English. Here the queen comes to f4, then g3, and now we get to see the pattern. And of course the knight comes to e8. So the bishop comes back, no point in being there anymore. And then another one occurs. And can you say another one? No. Yeah, so the point here is just to get the bishop to, so like here it's very important, like here if you know about this pattern you think, hey, I want to get this bishop to f4, but the knight comes to h5, and that's another pattern we'll see which is very annoying. So what do? You just think to yourself, hey, I do this pattern which I know is right. And by the way, I should mention about this pattern as well that usually knight h5s aren't so great because you come queen g4, and if ever a capture occurs, you capture back here, and the black pawn structure is just terrible. So knight e8, and now you can play bishop f4 safely, and you're able to win a pawn here, and then the game. So this is a simple conversion task, and white is up to the task. So we have our first test. What are we testing over here? So we get to see this opening with a4, the Slav. I didn't know it was called the Sultan Beyef variation. Never heard of that. And this is also another common pattern, a regroupment. Occurs a lot in the Mora and overused by lower rated players in the Mora. And here the question is, do you go for bishop h6 or do you not? Tempting as it may have been to go for this pattern, it actually turns out that it wasn't really the best move to go for. And I'll show you why in just a jiffy. So now we get to see the pattern. I much prefer the engine recommended a5, which is a very nice position move that aims to gain more space on the queen side and get the white pieces to better squares, greener pastures. Now the problem with bishop h6, knight h5 is that after queen h3, which is the familiar counter pattern basically that we've learned, so the point is that takes, and white is much better due to the very fragmented pawns on the king side. The point is that after f6 this forces a very long line that ends up with equality. So white has to take here. The point is that now the bishop is defended, so if you move the knight then black can just take, and black is up a piece. The knight is defended by the bishop. So this forces queen takes e6 check, king moves out, and now bishop e3. So white does still end up sacrificing a piece, but it turns out that after knight b5 there are some big threats with knight with rook d7. So knight b5 takes, now knight f4. Here you can play bishop takes f4, and after rook takes f4, rook d7, or insert g3 first to create an escape square, then rook d7, and white should recover. White instead tried b6, which is also much of the same. You go for this endgame, where this passed pawn will allow white to get some chances, but actually here they mess up and end up losing. So let's go through this very quickly. And here you get to see another pattern. This is a mating pattern. So the rook comes here and then here. And it occurs basically in this game. Now here it's a bit different because the king doesn't go here. Here the pawn will eventually promote. Actually, what happens after king e3? I guess, yeah, just rook takes. And you're going to lose this. Or wait, I'm so bad at chess, guys. Like, takes and just takes here. Yeah, that was the point. Yeah, just so you know, when you're analyzing these games, like when you're talking about them, you don't get into the positions. Okay, enough excuses. Alright, so for test number 2, we have the Nimzo, and it becomes one heck of a crazy Nimzo. Queen g3 here and castles. So the question is, do you go for the pattern or do you not? Take your time, pause the video and try to figure that out. So, for the full game, let's see what happened here. The answer is that yes, it is correct to go for this pattern, as now after knight e8 you have knight f3, and actually you can switch up the move order here, but the point is that white castles, and the attack white will get with eventual h4s, e3s, bishop d3s, it's going to be better for white. Sorry, so actually white lost this game, but here they have a rather decent advantage. But of course, castling with all of these weaknesses, it's not easy to play this. And here they went for a pattern we're familiar with, Greek gift-esque, but actually just to win the rook. And eventually, I mean, here of course they're better, but they start messing up and give a lot of counterplay. And now black's attack slowly becomes decisive. And they enter into this endgame where black just wins. So going through this quickly, yeah, the black king is just too active, and you can't really go up because of the black king. Then rook g3 would be made, so you have to defend passively, and eventually the king, the pawns are able to break through. And this is an important maneuver to remember, so you come here to threaten mate and shield yourself from the rook checks by using the white pawn. And yeah, that's it. So very nice game actually, the way black recovered from that, but white of course had a big opening advantage and did well for most of the game. Alright guys, so that's it for chess pattern number 10. Hope you enjoyed this video. Take care.